The night air was thick with an oppressive stillness as I stood alone at the desolate bus stop, my breath forming ghostly puffs in the frigid darkness. The pale glow of the moon was obscured by ominous clouds that loomed overhead, casting an eerie pallor over everything. I clutched my tattered jacket tightly, attempting to ward off the unsettling chill that seemed to seep into my bones. The night bus, as it was ominously referred to by the locals, was not a typical mode of transportation. It was a whispered legend among the townsfolk, a tale shared with trepidation and half-veiled warnings. They spoke of a bus that roamed the night streets, its final destination unknown, and its passengers trapped in an eternal, spine-chilling journey. I had heard the stories, of course. Tales of passengers who boarded the bus but never disembarked, of commuters who vanished without a trace, and of eerie, ghostly apparitions that wandered its dimly lit aisles. But I had always dismissed them as mere urban legends, the product of overactive imaginations fueled by the isolation of our remote town. Tonight, however, circumstances had conspired to place me at that forsaken bus stop, my car having broken down miles from home. With no other options available, I reluctantly checked my wristwatch, its hands pointing ominously close to midnight, and waited for the dreaded night bus. Time stretched on, and I began to doubt the existence of such a vehicle. I scanned the empty streets, my eyes darting from shadow to shadow, my ears straining to catch any hint of approaching wheels. Just as I began to entertain the notion of walking the long, lonely road home, a distant rumble reached my ears. The bus appeared seemingly out of nowhere, its flickering headlights casting a wavering, sickly glow that danced eerily on the crumbling pavement. It rolled to a stop before me, its doors hissing open with a sound that seemed more like a sigh of resignation than a mechanical function. I hesitated, glancing around for any sign of another option, but there was none. Reluctantly, I stepped aboard, and the doors closed behind me with a finality that sent a shiver down my spine. The interior was as grim as the night itself, dimly lit by feeble, flickering bulbs that cast elongated shadows on the worn-out seats. The driver, a figure shrouded in darkness, gave no acknowledgement of my presence. I mumbled a soft greeting, but it was swallowed by the silence that enveloped the bus. As I moved further down the narrow aisle, I couldn't help but notice the absence of other passengers. I was alone, or so it seemed. I chose an empty seat by the window, my heart pounding in my chest as I watched the desolate streets pass by. The town, once so familiar, now seemed like a spectral version of itself, distorted by the eerie ambience of the night bus. The bus moved with a peculiar, almost otherworldly smoothness, its tires gliding silently over the road. The minutes turned into hours, and still I saw no sign of other passengers. My unease grew with each passing moment, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I tried to reassure myself that it was just my imagination, but the oppressive atmosphere on the bus refused to let me relax. As we continued on our mysterious journey, I attempted to engage the driver in conversation, but my words seemed to dissipate into the cold air. It was as if I was invisible, an intruder in a realm beyond my understanding. The windows, smeared with an unsettling film that obscured the outside world, offered no solace. Time lost all meaning as I sat there, trapped in that grim metal shell hurtling through the endless night. I knew not where we were headed, nor did I have any sense of the passage of time. It was as if we had entered a nightmarish dimension, where the rules of reality no longer applied. Just as despair threatened to consume me entirely, the bus came to an abrupt halt, jolting me from my stupor. I peered out the window, my heart sinking as I realized that we were in a place that bore no resemblance to my hometown. The landscape was a desolate wasteland, with twisted, gnarled trees that seemed to reach out for the sky in silent anguish. I knew then, with a sinking feeling of dread, that I had embarked on a journey from which there might be no return. The night bus had taken me to a place beyond the realm of the living, a place where the line between reality and nightmare blurred into a chilling, eternal twilight. I stepped off the night bus onto the barren, moonlit landscape, my footsteps muffled by the soft, ashen soil beneath my feet. The air here was even colder, and an eerie, otherworldly silence enveloped me. I turned to look back at the bus, but it had already disappeared, leaving me utterly alone in this desolate realm. As I surveyed my surroundings, I noticed a faint, pulsating glow in the distance. It beckoned to me like a distant lighthouse in a storm, promising some semblance of refuge or answers to the myriad questions racing through my mind. With no other option, I began to trudge towards it, each step heavy with uncertainty. The landscape seemed to shift and morph as I walked, the gnarled trees contorting into grotesque shapes that cast unsettling, dancing shadows. The very ground beneath me seemed to breathe, rising and falling in a slow, rhythmic cadence that added to the eerie atmosphere. It was as if this place was alive, sentient, and malevolent. As I drew nearer to the source of the glow, I could make out the outline of a structure. It was a dilapidated mansion, its form both imposing and decrepit, like some forsaken relic of a bygone era. Its windows were dark voids, concealing whatever secrets lay within, and the front door stood slightly ajar, inviting yet foreboding. I pushed the door open with a creak that seemed to echo through the empty halls of the mansion. The interior was no less unsettling than the exterior. Dusty, cobweb-covered furniture lay in disarray, and faded portraits of long-forgotten faces adorned the walls, their eyes following me with a malevolent intensity. My footsteps echoed through the mansion's cavernous rooms as I explored further, my heart pounding with each eerie discovery. In one room, I found a grand piano, its keys stained with age and neglect. As I approached, the instrument seemed to play a haunting melody on its own, its ivory keys moving without human touch. I recoiled in horror, stumbling backward. It became clear that I was not alone in this accursed place. Whispered voices filled the air, their words unintelligible yet filled with an unmistakable sense of malice. Shadows darted just out of the corner of my eye, and spectral apparitions materialized and dissipated, their eyes filled with an inscrutable hunger. I continued to explore the mansion's labyrinthine corridors, each turn leading me deeper into the heart of the supernatural nightmare. My sense of time had become distorted, and I could no longer discern how long I had been trapped in this place. It felt like an eternity, an unending descent into madness. Finally, I entered a room at the mansion's core, a chamber that seemed to pulse with an unearthly energy. In its center stood an ornate mirror, its surface shimmering with an unnatural radiance. I approached it cautiously, my reflection distorted and elongated as if it were a grotesque mockery of myself. As I gazed into the mirror, I felt a presence behind me, a malevolent force that seemed to seep from the very walls of the mansion. I turned, my heart in my throat, and there, standing before me, was the driver of the night bus. His eyes, filled with a sinister knowing, bore into mine, and a sardonic smile played upon his lips. Without a word, he extended a skeletal hand towards the mirror, beckoning me to touch its surface. I recoiled, realizing that this was a choice that would seal my fate. The mirror seemed to pull at me, its strange allure impossible to resist. I hesitated, torn between the unknown horrors that lay beyond and the uncertain future that awaited me on the night bus. In the end, the choice was made for me as the mansion itself seemed to collapse into the mirror, swallowing me whole. The world I entered through the mirror was a twisted reflection of reality, a nightmarish kaleidoscope of torment and despair. I found myself in a place that defied the laws of physics and reason. The very fabric of this realm seemed to ripple and shift, warping the landscape into a nightmarish panorama of horrors. The air was thick with a suffocating darkness, and an eerie, discordant symphony of screams and whispers echoed through the distorted corridors of this nightmarish realm. I had no choice but to press on, my only hope being that I might somehow find a way back to the world I had known. I soon encountered other lost souls, fellow passengers from the night bus who had been ensnared in this nightmarish dimension. They wandered aimlessly, their faces etched with the same mix of fear and resignation that had gripped me. They spoke in hushed tones, sharing tales of the terrors they had encountered in this place. One woman, her eyes haunted and hollow, told of a room filled with mirrors that reflected her deepest fears and insecurities, driving her to the brink of madness. Another man recounted a labyrinthine maze where the walls shifted and closed in, trapping him in a never-ending cycle of terror and disorientation. We banded together, our collective desperation forging a fragile bond of camaraderie in the face of unspeakable horrors. Together, we navigated the treacherous landscape, each new challenge pushing us to the limits of our endurance. It was a grim odyssey through a nightmarish realm that seemed designed to test the very boundaries of our sanity. As we journeyed deeper into this surreal nightmare, we encountered grotesque and monstrous creatures that defied description. They slithered, crawled, and floated through the nightmarish landscape, their malevolence palpable. We fought to survive, our only weapons the fragments of our shattered courage. Time held no meaning in this nightmarish dimension, and I soon lost track of how long we had been trapped. Days and nights blurred together in a ceaseless cycle of torment. We yearned for escape, but it remained an elusive dream, a distant beacon of hope that seemed to grow dimmer with each passing ordeal. One fateful day, or what felt like a day, in this realm of perpetual twilight, we stumbled upon a colossal, towering door. Its surface was etched with cryptic symbols and grotesque, writhing figures. We knew that this door held the key to our escape, but deciphering its enigmatic code proved to be an agonizing challenge. We toiled for what felt like an eternity, our collective efforts slowly unraveling the door's secrets. It was as if the very essence of this realm resisted our attempts to break free. But we were determined, driven by the desperate need to return to the world we had lost. Finally, as our strength waned and hope threatened to slip through our fingers, the door yielded to our relentless efforts. It swung open with a deafening groan, revealing a blinding, searing light that poured forth like a cascading waterfall. It was a light that promised salvation, a return to the world of the living. With trembling hearts and tear-filled eyes, we stepped through the threshold, leaving behind the nightmarish realm that had ensnared us for so long. The blinding light enveloped us, erasing the horrors of the twisted dimension and filling us with a profound sense of relief. As I emerged on the other side, I found myself back at the bus stop, the very same one from which I had first boarded the night bus. The moon had disappeared behind the clouds, and the night air was crisp and refreshing. It was as if I had returned from a terrible dream, but the memories of the horrors I had witnessed would forever haunt my nightmares. I looked around, half expecting to see the other passengers who had shared my ordeal, but there was no sign of them. Had they found their way back as well, or were they condemned to roam that nightmarish realm for all eternity? The night bus, that dreaded conveyance of the damned, was nowhere to be seen. It had vanished as mysteriously as it had appeared, leaving me alone with the chilling realization that I had survived an ordeal few could comprehend. But as I walked away from the bus stop, my steps filled with a newfound sense of purpose, I couldn't help but wonder if the night bus still prowled the night streets, waiting to ensnare more unsuspecting souls in its nightmarish grip. The memory of my harrowing journey through the nightmarish realm haunted me long after my return. Days turned into weeks, and I struggled to reintegrate into the mundane routines of daily life. The horrors I had witnessed continued to lurk in the corners of my mind, waiting to engulf me in their suffocating darkness. I became obsessed with uncovering the truth about the night bus and the sinister forces that had ensnared me. Late at night, I scoured dusty archives and pored over cryptic texts in search of answers. The more I learned, the more I realized that the night bus was no ordinary legend. It was a malevolent entity, a conduit to a realm of unspeakable horrors. It was during one of my late-night research sessions that I stumbled upon a chilling revelation. The night bus had been a part of our town's dark history for centuries, a cursed vessel that had claimed countless souls over the ages. Each generation had its own tales of lost loved ones and mysterious disappearances, all attributed to the enigmatic bus that roamed the night. I traced the origins of the night bus to an ancient occult society that had once thrived in our town. Their rituals and incantations had summoned a malevolent entity that had taken the form of the accursed bus. Its purpose was to trap souls and feed off their fear and despair, prolonging its own existence in the process. With newfound determination, I sought out others who had encountered the night bus and survived. I found them scattered across the town, each bearing the scars of their nightmarish ordeal. Together, we formed a secret alliance, dedicated to exposing the truth and putting an end to the night bus reign of terror. Our investigations led us to a hidden chamber beneath the mansion I had encountered in the nightmarish realm. It was a place of unspeakable darkness, filled with ancient tomes and forbidden knowledge. We uncovered a ritual, a means to confront and ultimately banish the malevolent entity that had plagued our town for generations. The ritual required a dangerous and perilous journey back into the nightmarish realm, but we were willing to pay any price to free our town from the curse of the night bus. Armed with the knowledge we had gathered, we prepared ourselves for the final confrontation. Once again, we stood before the colossal, towering door that had separated our world from the nightmarish realm. The symbols and figures etched into its surface seemed to writhe and twist, as if they sensed our presence and sought to repel us. But we were resolute, our determination unwavering. With the knowledge we had gained from our research, we chanted the incantations and performed the ritual. The door groaned and shuddered, resisting our efforts to open it. But we pressed on, our voices rising in unison until the door relented, swinging open to reveal the blinding, searing light once more. We stepped through the threshold, armed with the conviction that we would confront the malevolent entity and banish it from our town forever. What awaited us on the other side was a nightmarish landscape even more twisted and horrifying than before, a manifestation of the entity's malevolence. The battle that ensued was a harrowing ordeal, a clash between the forces of darkness and our unwavering determination to reclaim our town. The entity took on grotesque forms, each more terrifying than the last, but we fought on, our wills strengthened by the knowledge that we were the town's last hope. As the final incantation echoed through the nightmarish realm, the entity let out a deafening shriek, its form unraveling into a swirling vortex of darkness. It fought to resist our efforts, but we stood firm, our collective willpower overpowering its malevolent presence. With a blinding flash of light, the entity was banished, its power broken, and the nightmarish realm began to crumble around us. We emerged from the ordeal victorious, our town finally freed from the curse of the night bus. But as we made our way back to the world we had known, we couldn't help but wonder if the malevolent entity had truly been vanquished, or if it lurked in the shadows, waiting for another opportunity to wreak havoc. In the aftermath of our victory over the malevolent entity that had plagued our town for generations, a sense of uneasy peace settled over our community. The curse of the night bus had been lifted, and the disappearances and horrors that had once haunted us were no more. Yet the scars of our collective ordeal ran deep, and the shadow of the nightmarish realm lingered in our memories. The members of our secret alliance remained vigilant, knowing that the entity might seek to return, or that other dark forces might attempt to fill the void left by its banishment. We continued to research and gather knowledge, determined to protect our town from any supernatural threats that might arise. As we delved deeper into the history of the malevolent entity, we discovered that it had not acted alone. It had been summoned by a cult that had long since disbanded, its members disappearing into obscurity. But we were determined to uncover the truth and ensure that no one would ever be tempted to summon such evil again. Our investigations led us to a series of cryptic writings that hinted at the existence of a hidden artifact, a source of great power that had been used in the summoning ritual. With the help of ancient texts and occult knowledge, we deciphered the clues that would lead us to this artifact. Our quest took us to the most remote corners of the town, where we uncovered a hidden chamber beneath the ruins of the cult's former meeting place. There we found the artifact, a twisted, ancient amulet adorned with eldritch symbols and radiating an ominous aura. It was clear that the amulet had been used to channel the malevolent entity's power and facilitate its summoning. We knew that destroying the artifact would be the key to ensuring that the entity could never return. But we also understood that doing so would not be easy, for the amulet was imbued with dark magic. We gathered our resources and prepared for a final confrontation with the remnants of the cult, who were determined to protect the amulet at all costs. It was a battle of wills and magic, a clash between the forces of light and darkness. As the confrontation reached its climax, the amulet's power surged, threatening to overwhelm us. But we stood firm, our resolve unwavering. With a final incantation and a burst of pure white light, the amulet shattered into countless shards, its malevolent energy dissipating into the ether. The remnants of the cult were defeated, their dark influence eradicated, and the artifact's destruction ensured that the malevolent entity could never return. Our town was finally free from the specter of the night bus and the curse that had plagued it for centuries. In the aftermath, we disbanded our secret alliance, knowing that our mission was complete. The town began to heal, and a sense of normalcy returned to our lives. But we could never truly forget the horrors we had faced, the nightmarish realm we had traversed, and the malevolent entity that had once held our town in its grip. As I walked the streets of our now peaceful town, I couldn't help but wonder if the entity and the nightmarish realm still existed in some other form, lurking in the shadows, waiting for an opportunity to return. The memory of our battle and the knowledge we had gained would forever serve as a beacon of vigilance, a reminder that darkness could be banished but never fully extinguished. Years passed since the defeat of the malevolent entity that had plagued our town, but the members of our secret alliance remained vigilant. We knew that the forces of darkness were never truly vanquished, and that our community would always be a target for the supernatural. Our town had become a beacon of knowledge, a repository of ancient texts and forbidden lore, all in the name of protecting our home from the unknown. As the town's unofficial guardians of the occult, we dedicated ourselves to studying and understanding the mysteries that lurked in the shadows. We formed a network of knowledge, connecting with experts in the field of the paranormal from around the world. Our alliance became a formidable force against any supernatural threat that dared to encroach upon our town. Over the years, we encountered various anomalies and disturbances, each more bizarre and unsettling than the last. We faced malevolent spirits, vengeful apparitions, and eldritch horrors that defied description. Yet, with our combined knowledge and determination, we managed to quell these disturbances and protect our community. One particularly chilling case involved a haunted forest on the outskirts of town, where the trees whispered dark secrets and phantom voices echoed through the night. We embarked on an expedition into the heart of the forest, armed with ancient incantations and protective talismans. It was a journey into a realm where the veil between our world and the supernatural was thin, and where our every step was met with resistance from unseen forces. In the heart of the haunted forest, we uncovered a malevolent spirit, a tormented soul trapped between the worlds of the living and the dead. Through a combination of ritual and compassion, we managed to guide the spirit to the afterlife, bringing peace to the forest and the tormented soul within. Another case involved a series of mysterious disappearances in the town square, where people would vanish without a trace, leaving behind only eerie, ghostly imprints of their presence. We conducted extensive research and discovered that an ancient relic buried beneath the square was the source of the disturbances. With great care and precision, we unearthed the relic and sealed it away, putting an end to the sinister phenomena. Our work continued, and our knowledge grew with each passing year. We became experts in the arcane and the occult, ready to face any supernatural threat that dared to cross our path. The town's residents came to see us as protectors, guardians of their safety and sanity. But even as we carried out our duties, the memory of the night bus and the nightmarish realm that had once ensnared us remained etched in our minds. We knew that the malevolent entity could never truly be destroyed. It could only be banished temporarily. The shadows always had a way of returning. As I walked the streets of our town, I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The world was full of mysteries and terrors that defied explanation, and our town had become a beacon for those who sought to uncover its secrets. The night bus, the haunted forest, the malevolent entity, they were all reminders that the supernatural could never be fully understood or conquered. Our vigilance would never waver, and our alliance would continue to protect our town from the forces that lurked in the darkness. We had glimpsed the abyss, and we knew that it was always watching, always waiting for an opportunity to return. And so, we carried on, knowing that our work was never truly finished, and that the nightmarish realm and its horrors would forever remain a part of our town's dark history.